Welcome to the Exceptionally Irresistible Show, featuring conversations with people who have demonstrated exceptional success in their lives and who have some irresistible qualities worth learning from. Come learn how others have created an exceptionally irresistible life. You too can live an extraordinary life, both personally and professionally. So sit back, relax, grab your favorite beverage, and enjoy the show. Hello, and welcome to another incredible episode of the Exceptionally Irresistible Show. We are slowly coming to the end of this season. I'm getting so excited. This has been such a wonderful and incredible journey with all of you all, sharing with you these incredible stories. And we are now in the stage of transition. We are moving slowly out of these incredible stories that we're hearing, and we're moving into the next season, which is going to talk about that whole legacy leadership that you've been hearing over the past, few episodes. And we're slowly moving into these stories and these people who are doing things incredible in these spaces. So that's what you guys are going to be expecting for the next few episodes. And today we have a guest who is that perfect, almost perfect segue between the two elements. And I met Summer, a little while ago, and I just fell in love with her energy, with who she is and what kind of person she is. And just like, I don't remember how we met, but like we met and it was almost like sparks flying. And it was just like, I love the work that she does. And I love the stuff that she's all about. And I love just the energy she brings to the table. And it's really, it's so important when you're in a leadership position, when you're in a coaching position, when whatever element that you're in, that you have this form of impact on people. So when Summer reached out and when we were talking about the potential of bringing her on as a guest, I was just like, this energy is what I really want to highlight and show to the rest of the world, because I remembered her right away, even though we lost touch for a small period of time, but I remembered her right away and she left an impact on me. And I was so excited to have her on the show. So without further ado, here she is. We're going to have an awesome conversation. You guys are in for a treat. So Summer, how you doing?
I'm doing good. How you doing?
I'm doing so much better today. I'm so excited. I know this was all so last minute, and I was just so ecstatic when I saw, your email and when I saw you, coming in. I was like, yes, let's have you on the show.
Oh, thank you so much for, sharing this space with me. I'm excited to be on the Exceptionally Irresistible Show.
That is awesome. So, Summer, let's jump right into things. I love to ask all the guests, like right when they come on, if you were standing on some rooftop somewhere, if you were, you had a megaphone, the world's listening, what's the message you want them to hear?
Live your life present in the present and authentically.
Mm.
Find joy where you're at, and happiness, I believe there's a distinct difference between joy and happiness. Joy is from within, and happiness is what you're trying to find on the outside. And so as long as you're cultivating that joy inside and you're being present and rooted in who you are with your values and understanding those values, and you're living your life in alignment with those values, you're going to cultivate more joy, and you're going to be pointing yourself in the direction that aligns with your authenticity. And I think that's so important, because I think when we feel so out of alignment with who we are, our values, not being authentic, it's not going to work. It just doesn't feel right. It's not the energy you want to put out into the world. So take a moment, take some time, look out into that horizon and find out, do some self-reflection and understand who you want to be, where you want to be, and how you want to authentically and presently live your life.
I love that. And I love that message so much, because it's kind of like leading me to that next sort of question, is that something that I know about you, that you talk a lot about mentorship, and you talk a lot about collaboration, community, all that kind of stuff. I love that your message is, that authenticity, that, that joy, that happiness, Could you just expand a little bit more on the connection of why is that so important when you're talking about mentorship, leadership, collaboration, community, all that kind of stuff? Where's the connect?
Oh, long good question. Such a good question, Yermi, because I think when you're thinking about community, collaboration, making change, leadership, you're going to reach those people by being your authentic self, by
Mm,
showing up authentically. What
mm,
does that mean? I know we say that a lot, right? And I believe it's when you're clear with yourself and you understand and know who you are, and it's not that you don't care what other people think, it's more along the lines of you care about how you're showing up, that
mhm,
you're present, that you're
mhm,
being true to yourself.
mhm.
And if others don't like that, well, some people aren't going to like everything that you bring to the table. And
Right.
you can't always be a people pleaser, right?
Mm,
But I
mhm,
want you to show up authentically and
yeah,
presently and see how you're going to cultivate relationships. And I believe that when you do, it draws more people in because they
mm,
really know who you are. It builds a trust.
yeah.
Because if you're presenting a certain way and you're doing something different behind the scenes, that's not
Mm,
authentic,
you're
right?
so
And
yeah.
I can tell you when I show up, I like to laugh. I like to get work done.
Yeah.
I like to stay focused. Sometimes I get a little off track, okay, but that's because I'm in some kind of interesting conversation where I'm like, oh my gosh, it's so exciting, right?
Sure.
So,
Yeah.
but I do love building community, and I think when you show up, and you're present, you're focused on what's being talked about, you're open to new ideas,
Mm,
you're able to laugh and show some levity with your leadership. I
yeah.
think it makes such a huge difference and people are drawn to it. Let me tell you a story, hear me.
Right, yeah, sure.
So I was in Okinawa, Japan, living there on a military base, and houses are pretty close together. And I was actually there visiting some friends because I didn't live on the base. I had the option of not living on a base, and I was like, okay, I'd rather live off base and get enculturated and learn
Mhm.
about the where I live, like Okinawa, Japan, and the people.
Yeah.
So I went to go visit some friends, and usually on a Friday or Saturday night, they'd have their doors open. People would be chatting outside. It was a
Mhm.
community. We were a
Yeah.
close connected community. And some people heard me laughing and they were like across the street, right? And I was like, is my laugh that loud? Oh my gosh, right? And they started walking over and they said, we knew it. We knew it was you, Summer. We knew it was you laughing, and we just had to walk over here and like hang out with you. And I was like, I
Yeah.
love that.
Yeah. And
So
that's what I was saying in the introduction. That's how I know you. That's how I remember you. And it's just that, you're right. It's that authentic, just that overall, internal joy that you were talking about,
yeah,
just comes across. And that's the thing. It's like every time I see a post of yours on social media or something, and that I cannot help but just smile. It's like
oh,
and I want to say that. I want to say that because that's really important, Summer. It's really important. Um, not just for how I feel about your posts and stuff, but I think the audience are going to get a value from hearing this. That I could only imagine. I could like if I was to put myself in your shoes in a sense that when you're about to post and when you're writing your post or whatever it is, I'm gonna bet that you're probably smiling or you're probably like physically like having fun and authentic. If you're authentic, you're
yeah,
authentic across the board. You're authentic. And I don't, I'm going to share this with you. I'm going to share with you a story as well.
mhm,
When I was doing my public speaking stuff, so early on in the career, I was doing a lot of public speaking, and I don't have the fear of public speaking. So a lot of people have the
absolutely.
public speaking fear. That's not the kind of fear that I was experiencing. I was experiencing a different kind of challenge. I was sweating for different reasons. I was getting up on stage and I was always in my brain, in my mind, I was thinking, are they going to like what I'm sharing? Am I presenting well? Am I coming across well? Do they like me? Do they like me? Well, more like not me, but like more, do they like my stuff? Do they like what I'm, are they, and it was just like this thing always playing in my mind in the back,
Mm,
and then I said, you know what, this got to stop. Like this, it's just like, it's getting dysfunctional.
yeah,
And I decided that I'm going to stop. I don't care if they like or not. That's not, I'm going to say what I'm here to say. I'm going to present what I'm here to present.
Yeah.
And I remember reading something that changed my whole perspective of everything. It said, like, when you're about to hit the stage, come with love.
Mm.
Love your audience, show them love. In other words, you're saying something, you're saying it from a place of like you care, and
Yeah.
say it from there. And he said something that changed my life. He said, it's very hard to not like someone who loves you. it doesn't
Ah,
it doesn't necessarily mean that
that's
you're gonna like.
profound. Oh my gosh, it's so simple, but it's just
It's
it's
profound.
heart. Yeah, it's just so heartfelt, right?
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
That is so
You
true.
love them, they might like you.
Yeah.
And that's what you should focus on. You
Yeah.
focus on loving them. And
Yes.
it's hard not to at least like
Right.
someone who loves you.
Right. Absolutely. Absolutely. I love that. Wow. What a great, now that's a great story. Wow.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. So
So,
and I definitely feel that about stuff that you post and stuff that and again, the reason why we're sharing this and why we're highlighting that is that being that authentic, how you're showing up
yeah.
is really how people are judging you. That's really, and it's really all about that internal work and that thing that you're coming. And that's ultimately why people are going to get influenced by you, why people are going to get persuaded by you, why people want to do business with you, why they want you as a mentor, why they even want to join your community is because they relate to that.
Yeah. And here's the thing, it didn't come overnight. This
Mm-hmm.
stuff didn't come overnight. As a doctor of psychology,
Mm-hmm.
I've worked in very traditional settings.
Mm-hmm.
Where you're as a professional, you're expected to do certain things. You show up kind of stoically. You listen and you lean in and
Mm-hmm.
you nod your head and
Yeah.
you do your job.
Yeah.
And there's certain parameters to that. And I thought, as a business leader, as somebody who's out in the community, bringing community together, I want to do this differently. I
Mm-hmm.
want to embrace the community where they can be themselves.
Mm-hmm.
That I am going to embrace and be open and lean into new ideas. And
Mm-hmm.
to me, that's not only good leadership, but that's great mentorship.
Yeah.
And I've had extremely incredible mentors as I was coming up the ladder, even
Mm-hmm.
in those places that were very traditional. I'm now an entrepreneur, yet it doesn't mean that I don't tap into that skill set, those knowledge, skills, abilities that I have and
Mhm,
apply some of those same things. But the way that I do it, I wanted it to look a bit different. I wanted to be a mentor that was going to help people in the workplace or as entrepreneurs do it in a way that they were being authentic, that
right.
they were showing up for themselves and being in alignment with their values and their person and their energy, right?
Yeah.
Because I felt like in some of those situations, I was being, my energy was being curbed, right?
Mhm.
It was being curtailed in a sense because you're all there. You know that it's a very clinical setting. You
Yeah,
know that things are very, important. They always are, but with patients who are in crisis, it's like things are fast,
yeah.
things are quick. You've been in that situation too, Jeremy. You worked in those
Mhm,
situations in those facilities, right?
mhm.
And so it's like we only have limited time, so we've got to be like, okay, yes, this is
Yeah,
what we're gonna do. This is what it's all about, and yeah, we have to bits of levity, but there weren't a lot.
yeah.
And it's like, I get that. I understand it. But the way I want to build out my business, that I hope that others build out their business, if they come with that authenticity, where what you're saying up front is the truth, where you're building a trust, where you're building that empathy, you're building that kindness into the culture.
Yeah.
And to me, as a leader, as a mentor, that's extremely important. And I think
Sure.
that's what you're seeing when you see me posting, when you see my
Mhm,
content, because it is who I am. And like I said, and I'm tapping back into this didn't come easy. I
mm.
came from a family with there was some dysfunction, right? I was born and my parents were very young. They were 17 and 19 when they had me. And, at some point they were like, yeah, we can't take care of these kids. They got to go live with their grandparents.
Oh, wow.
And then after living with our grandparents, then it was go live with your dad. And then it was go live with your mom. Right. And then it's like,
Mhm,
who do you trust? Because so there was trust issues, there was socialization
mhm,
issues, there was like, but in my heart, I've always been a kind soul. Right. So my mom
mhm.
said, even when you were a baby and you were I had a medically fragile kid. I had a hole in my small intestine at 6 months
Mm.
of age, and I was sick for many months and for over several years. And she said, even at your sickest points where you had your hands tied down, you were in a hospital because there were tubes coming out of you. She said, Summer, that heart monitor, when she'd walk in the room, would go crazy. She said, you
Oh,
could feel
wow.
me. It would go,
Wow.
and she said,
Wow.
you could just feel me. And she said, and you never cried. She said, you were always pleasant. Everybody was like, wow, she's such a
Wow.
well-adjusted baby.
Wow.
And she
That's
said,
such an incredible story.
always been that way. So I
Mm.
think, when I felt, like, whoa, this is really impacting who I am, my
Mhm.
authenticity, I had to stand, like you said, and look in the horizon and say, what is it that I want?
Mhm.
And at the point where my husband retired from the Marine Corps and got a federal job out in DC, and that was that point. It
Mm.
was, what do I want to do?
Yeah.
How do I want to show up as a leader? And how do I want to build my community?
Hmm. Yeah, and again, I relate to this so much, and I'm sure a lot of the audience members does relate to this. And you were mentioning like my work in the prison system,
Yes.
and I often share this now a lot. Like I was this close to getting licensed as a proper therapist. Like
Yeah.
training is all in therapy, all that stuff,
Yeah.
and I did all the hours. It was all about just taking the test and actually getting licensed. That's all.
Yeah.
That's where I was up to.
Yeah.
And I was in Vegas. I was in Las Vegas, and they had one of the APA
Mhm.
conferences was there, and I meet one of the executives of the APA. He was presenting, and there was just something about his presentation. Absolutely loved it. Went over to him and just a little bit cheeky in a sense, like a little bit like kind of funny, and I was like, "Could I invite you to coffee on me?" And he just like he thought that was the funniest thing ever, because at the conference he
Yeah.
was free coffee
Right. Right.
there. And I was just like, coffee on me, like, let's go there. He
Yeah.
thought it was the funniest thing ever. So he gave me a little bit of time and we got to talking and, I was telling him about my prison work and how excited, all that kind of stuff. And I'm really, really excited. And I think I even was even like, I think I had the date of when I was even supposed to go for the licensing test.
Wow.
And yeah, it was like ready to go. And just through that conversation, he looks up to me and he goes, Yermi, don't get licensed.
Yeah.
He told that to me straight up, and it like it hit me. And through that conversation, we were learning that, and he was so right because at what was I think I was like 33 or 34 at the time. I really felt that I hit the plateau of my like this is my impact. This is it.
Right.
And I really felt that there was so much more that I at least had so much more to give to the world than just to do this
Yeah.
and then life shifted and then here we are today.
Yeah.
But the idea is, and then I also do believe that lesson, the reason I had to go through that, because I do also draw from my therapy
Sure. Yeah.
background. I do draw a lot from that stuff in the stuff that I do. But I mean, I'm allowed, I'm technically allowed because I'm not licensed
Yeah.
to do different things that had I been licensed I wouldn't be able to do. And
Right.
there is legitimacy to, if somebody's licensed or whatever, we need those people. But we
Absolutely.
have to be true to ourselves and say, okay, what's the type of impact? Well, how do I, like, when I die and when people are going to be talking about me, past my life or whatever, what are they saying?
Yeah.
What am I doing today that's going to leave that lasting impact in the future, which is what I call legacy leadership. What is it that I'm doing right here, right now, that's going to leave that impact on other people? So I think what you're sharing is so important to, if the audience members are getting anything by this show, that should be the number one, I think, if you agree.
I totally agree. So it's funny that you mentioned this because not funny, haha, but interesting that you mentioned, what that legacy is going to look like.
Mhm.
I think it has to do with your mentorship, your leadership, what you're putting out into the world, your energy, right?
Yeah.
Um, all these things. And I used both that creative, that left and right brain, right? So I'm
Mhm.
analytical, I'm creative. I like it all. And I like being passionate about what I'm doing, but then it's also that reflection about I'm passionate, but how am I going to put this into practice, right? How am I going to make this work? What is the team going to look like? What are the end
Mm.
goals, right? So I start strategizing, and because I don't want the passion to overcome everything that I do,
Right.
because then it's like, where are you going to get? What's the end goal, right? How are you going to reach those goals? But what you say regarding legacy, it's really interesting because I love bringing community together. And one of the things that happened to me last year was I'm big on LinkedIn. I love being on LinkedIn. I may not have a million followers, but the people that I do follow, I have relationships with, right? The
Yeah.
people that follow me,
Mhm.
like we are
Mhm.
connected. And so I ended up finding out that I had a tumor in my lung, a
Mm.
malignant tumor. And like mid last year. And so November comes around and I actually have to have the tumor removed. And so
Mm.
for my lung, so I have lung surgery, I have some resection done to my lung. And during that time, had no idea what was happening behind the scenes, but all these people on LinkedIn, Facebook, Instagram, they all got together and they created a book for me. And it was
Wow.
called Memories Worth Remembering. And it
Wow.
was their stories to me about our relationship and how that evolved
Wow.
over time. So I got a
Wow.
book. I got this incredible gift certificate to use to
Oh,
any different places or on a Visa card. Like they all
wow.
just rallied. I had no idea. They put this
Mm.
incredible book, and I have to give kudos to my friend Oleg, who does these books called Memories Worth Remembering. It was
Wow.
a beautiful book that they presented me
Wow.
and sent me. So it was just like, that's what I'm talking about. It doesn't come down to, a medical issue or whatever, but how are you building the community around you? What does that
Mm.
legacy look like? Do you care about your community? Are
Yeah.
you keeping in connection with that community? How are you responding and how are you reciprocating, right? And so what
Mhm.
are you giving back and lifting up and how are you raising up these people in your community as well? And it's not just about me, it's about building community. And I learned this very early on from a mentor. When I was working in nonprofit, I had two mentors, and I'm going to shout out their names: Lois Ingber and Lois Souza. Yes, two Loises at the same nonprofit. And
Wow.
one helped build community and create these large community and countywide grants and bring people to the table. And another helped me with my clinical stuff, as a clinician, as a counselor.
Mhm.
And so, but going out into the community, building those relationships, making those changes is about the community, bringing
Mm.
them to the table, embracing new ideas, being creative,
Yeah.
and being open,
Yeah.
open to each other and being kind and understanding and respectful, mutually respectful. So, this is what I really am all about. That's what I value. And let me
Wow.
tell you one last story.
Yeah.
So over time too, there was somebody who was meaningful in my life who had a name, right? Like dad, right? And and dad, we didn't line in our values. And
Mm.
that meant, because I didn't always think the way that he approached things was very kind, the way he treated people. And that split our relationship up because
Mhm.
if it did not align with my values, just because
Wow.
you have a name or just
Mhm.
because you are somebody in my life, it doesn't mean that I have to agree or that we
Yeah.
have to have a relationship,
100%. Yeah.
because my values are mine. And it's not that I'm rigid, it's just I really care about what I put out into the world and how I treat people.
Unbelievable.
Yeah.
Wow. And
There we go.
and and really what comes to me when I'm hearing these stories and these things, and first of all, so sorry to hear about, your medical
Oh, I'm
situation.
good.
I pray everything is gonna turn out better and God willing you get over all
Thank
these,
you.
but it was really heartwarming to hear about, the book and the gift and all that
Yeah.
stuff. And this is something that I also talk about, in our program. We have this program called business strategy mastery.
Mhm.
And part of the strategy is that when you're leaving an impact on people, if it's positive and people connect with you and people, in a sense, love you, what they do is that they want to see you succeed. But
Yeah.
not only that, but they also feel almost like, I would say, obligated. Not that they feel like obligated as if they're up against a wall, but they just feel like they feel this kind of sense of responsibility or whatever to reward you and to see you. They just want to see you happy and they want to see you awarded with something. And so this example that we were just sharing, like the whole community coming around to get coming together on this book and everything, they almost felt this level of obligation towards you, that they had to see you awarded with something. And I'm using these words, loosely, but the idea is that good people, good people get good things coming to them when they invest that time and energy from their side. And again, knowing you and I know that every time you and I ever spoke, it's almost like best long lost friends that haven't,
Yeah,
that, and
yeah,
it's like, and it truly leaves an impact, and people want, they feel like they just want to award you with goodness and all kinds of stuff, so such an important lesson. I think, it's super powerful what you're saying. I mean, it's really, really incredible. And I'm just going to say, I'm just super inspired by this conversation.
thank
And, and I'm going to ask you my last question as we slowly wrap up here. What's driving you? What's like, where do you draw your inspiration from? What's like, what fuels you?
people, community.
Mm,
That fuels me. I love bringing people together
mm,
and for a common purpose.
mm,
And I want to see our community look better, do better, feel better, right?
mm,
And that means physically, mentally, and spiritually, whatever that looks like spiritually for you.
mm,
Um, and I think that it's always been something that's a focus, a driver for me, and it's internal, right?
yeah.
And whatever that looks like, it doesn't have to look the same for you. Whatever that looks like for me is it's about mentorship.
Mm,
It's about leadership. It's about what I'm putting out into the world and truly being authentic. Not everybody, my grandmother says, "Wow, you laugh really loud," right? When I was growing up, and I was like,
mm,
"Wow, that wasn't very nice." And I
mm,
feel like, "Am I really laughing?" But you know what? I was like, "I can't let this change me. This is who I
mm,
am," right? And I thought, I need to bring it, and what I'm bringing to the table is important. It's
mm.
and what I'm going to touch on what you said earlier, like an obligation. I believe it's an investment in each other.
Sure.
And that's what I call it is we have this reciprocal investment, right? And it's
Mhm.
just organically grown
Yeah,
by how you give back, how you show up
yeah,
in community. And
yeah,
when you invite people to the table, how you listen and how you interact and how you engage, it
so
makes such a difference because
so
that's
true.
where things shift and how things change.
Yeah,
It's
yeah,
collectively. And
yeah,
so that
love
is
that.
my
Yeah,
focus.
and yeah, and then, again, and again, as I said, I used obligation as a
Yeah,
very
sure.
loose word, but it's more like this deep, deep drive, this deep desire
Yeah,
that sometimes you can't even explain sometimes, and that's, people interpret that to obligation, but it's not,
yeah,
but I mean, it's exactly to what you said. Exactly what you said. It's that investment.
yeah.
And just the natural outcome of an investment that is done right and that done effectively
Right.
is, it's that perpetual and everything. And
Yeah.
that's, yeah, you I couldn't have said it better. So there you go. You had it from the
Thank
word of
you.
yourself.
Thank you. Yeah, this has been
So
a great conversation.
unbelievable. As Summer, this is always a pleasure. And thank you so much for taking the time. And, ladies and gentlemen, that, you're watching this and you're listening to this, thank you so much for tuning in again to another episode of the Exceptionally Irresistible Show. Remember, you guys are already exceptional. You guys already irresistible. Just show up. That's really like, let the world know who you are. That's the lesson we're learning today from Summer. And that's what you'll be rewarded for, and that's what you'll be known for. So you could do it.
You can do
And
it.
so, yeah, that wraps it up today. So thank you so much, everybody, and we'll see you again next time. Bye bye. That's it for this week's episode of the Exceptionally Irresistible Show. What has inspired you to take action in your life? Take action now. Take the first step, share it with a friend, or write it in a journal. Subscribe and share this episode, and remember, you too are exceptionally irresistible.